What up, YouTube? How y'all doing today? Today, we're going to recap 2024, the sports way. So, I have gone through records, stats, every sort of thing involving all four major sports and determined a top 10 and a bottom 10. Now, each list consists of at least two MLB teams, two NBA teams, two NHL teams, and two NFL teams. The other two are determined how everything else was sorted. So now there are some, definitely questionable. Like certain teams could have been on the list, certain teams could have not been on the list. But winning championships, making the playoffs, winning a lot, or losing a lot, and losing streaks, and top 5 draft picks, all those little things were taken into consideration for making this list. So let's start out with the bottom 10. So at number 10, this is one of two teams on this list that made the playoffs in the 2023 season. At number 10, it's the Miami Marlins. They had taken a drastic downfall from going to the playoffs to being 62-100 in 2024. Again, there are other teams that probably percentage-wise were a lot worse, but I felt the Marlins, after making the playoffs and then dropping and essentially selling just about everyone. I don't think there's many people left from the 2023 playoff roster that's still left on that team. Just about everyone was traded. There's still a couple pieces, but they were pretty bad, and that they end up at 10. So I say couldn't put them higher. I could have left them off the list. There were a couple other teams, as I said, but I felt the Marlins felt at 10. At number 9, it is the Tennessee Titans. As I'm recording this video, and you guys are watching it, the NFL season has ended, so we do know they have the number 1 pick for the 2025 draft. Now, again, yes, this is from 2024, and why they're there. Again, they're really lucky to have number 1 because the Giants blew it, and so did the Patriots. But Will Levis is not the answer. And neither was Mason Rudolph. So they had a rough year. They get the number 1 pick. We'll see what they do with it. They're probably going Cam Ward. We'll see. At number 8 is the Anaheim Ducks. They are one of 3 NHL teams that finished with 30 or less wins, not including the Coyotes or the Utah Hockey Club, due to the fact that in hindsight, they're the same team, but they're 2 different teams, and for 2 different seasons. So they are not included. We're not factored in to make this list. They ended up with I believe the 3rd overall pick in last year's draft. There's just I don't hear much about them. I've gotten into hockey and I've started to understand it, but there's just no talk about the Ducks, and I don't see any production going their way anytime soon. At number 7, the New York Giants. I would love to put them higher. You'll see why I can't put them higher in just a little bit. They royally messed their probably future up. They had the number 1 seed locked up. They decided to win against the Colts. I predicted they would have 0-1 win. I didn't think. They should have beat the Browns, or they should have lost to the Browns. My apologies. But the Browns fumbled and could not. They were given chances. I remember watching the game. Given chances, and they were not capitalizing. They should have beat the Seahawks, or they should have lost against the Seahawks. Again, that game would have gone overtime. Who says they don't? But, and in hindsight, even if they were going for a win, then being the Colts wouldn't matter. They still have that 1 win. So, and besides they won their last game of the 2023-2024 season at home, which led to being the Cowboys the last team out of all four major sports to win a home game. And the Cowboys were pretty bad this year, but not as bad as the Giants. They were really messed up. They're sitting at 3. As we said, this is all done after the season, so we know where they're drafting. And we'll see where they go. Number 6, the Cleveland Browns. Now I said I wish I could put the Giants higher, but the Browns lost to the Giants. So of course the Browns are going to be worse than the Giants, and they have a horrible situation. They're drafting 2. So I have now somehow put the top 3 worst NFL teams in here, and I didn't realize until just now as I'm talking about it. They have Deshaun. They're in a terrible situation with his contract. I know they redid it, but even just like the real only hope was Baker, and now he's in Tampa, and look what he's doing. I say they did make the playoffs last year with Joe Flacco. This is the second team that made the playoffs, but not Deshaun. Deshaun, again, got hurt. They just were not playing winning football. That's why they're on 6. Number 5, the San Jose Sharks. Again, one of the 3 teams that finished with under 30 wins. The other ones were the Chicago Blackhawks, but they got that Bernard kid. Don't know who he is, but I heard he's good. So I gave their future I gave the Blackhawks a break because I figured their future it's coming. Just got to let them build up. But the Sharks ended up with the number 1 overall pick in 2024 from the 23 to 24 season. So that's where they're on 5. They ended up where the Sharks near 21, 52, gotta find it, and 12, which was the worst record in hockey last year. So yeah. Number 4, the Bears. I really wish the Bears didn't win their last game against the Packers because they would have ended the season, I think, on the longest losing streak in NFL history. And given the fact that they only had the first round pick in 2024 because of the Panthers, and I don't think Caleb's going to work out. That's personally me. Not that I'm a Panthers fan. Like, I'm glad we have Bryce Young. People say they should be on this list, but the way Bryce Young played from that Saints game on changed narrative. Went back-to-back games, almost beat the Chiefs, almost beat the Eagles. So that's why the Panthers are off this list. The hope is there. I don't have hope for the Bears, and they sit lower in the draft order. And as I said, if they didn't win, they would have ended the season on a 10-game plus losing streak. Pretty bad. Pretty bad. Chicago sports did not have a good year. I will say that. Number 3, the Chicago White Sox, who went 41-21. The most losses in MLB history. They had the second longest losing streak this year. Unfortunately, they will not end up with a high draft pick because of how bad they were the previous year. So I know with the MLB, they've done some lottery, and if you get certain picks, you can't get them back-to-back years. So they messed themselves up. They're still going to get a good pick, but it's not going to be number 3 or number 1. That's the Nationals. So they were pretty bad. As I said, Chicago sports did not have a good year. And there's no hope. They just as I said, just about with the Marlins, they've just about traded everyone. Still a couple pieces left, but they've just traded about everyone. I don't expect them to. I wouldn't be shocked if they break the loss record again in 2025, but we'll see. Number 2, the Washington Wizards. Now they are pretty bad, and even going from the start of January 1st until now, and the end of December, and they are, I think, actually the worst basketball team since January 1st to the end of the year. And that's saying a lot because the Pistons lost 28 straight. The Wizards aren't anywhere near better. They have 2 streaks of 16 plus losing. I think it's 16. I know it's at least 15 for each, but long losing streaks. No hope. Because I think Atlanta drew one. I don't know the draft order, but Pistons got messed out of it. Like, you can be bad and still miss out on the first pick. That's how bad your team is doing. So, again, I could have put them at 1, but number 1 is the Pistons, and them losing 28 straight, the most in NBA history, put them at the top of the list at the bottom 10 teams of 2024. And, as I said, there's a couple teams on here that could have, I could have gone Oakland. I could have gone Chicago. There are a bunch of teams that finished with 5 or less wins. Like, I could put the Jets. I could have put the Patriots, but the Patriots got the first overall. No, they don't. They got 4 now. So there was a lot of consideration on how I wanted to do this. And the Browns actually were a fan pick. It was between the Browns, the Hornets, and the Raptors. And the Raptors got the least amount of votes. And then it came down to the Browns and Hornets. And personally deciding and talking to a few people, I figured the Browns had a worse situation than the Hornets because the Hornets have that dude LaMelo Ball. So there's hope. So that's why some of these teams that did bad didn't make the list, because there's hope and just a few key pieces, maybe some tweaks, and they're contenders, or at least average sports teams, not terrible and losing. So that is the top 10. Marlins at 10, Titans at 9, Ducks at 8, Giants at 7, Browns at 6, Sharks at 5, Bears at 4, White Sox at 3, Wizards at 2, and the Pistons, Pistons at 1. So that is your bottom 10 for 2024. Now, on to the top 10 of 2024. On to the top 10. So now I said winning is key coming into the top 10. And it's same rules apply for the bottom. 2 from each league, and then the other 2 are random and factored in. At number 10, it is the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold came in and probably was expecting to be the backup after they drafted J.J. McCarthy. He got hurt and went off. He's 14-3. And I said, at the time of recording this, he unfortunately gets the 5 seed because the Lions went 15-2 and won and got the first round bye. But 14 wins from a team that missed the playoffs last year and could have been average. Could have been like 10-8, 10 or 10-7. Still making the playoffs, but not as much hope as being 14-3. So they make the list at 10. At number 9, the Bills. A lot of promise. They continue to win their division with ease. Again, another 14-win season. Most likely have the MVP. I personally have Josh Allen as my MVP for the NFL season. As I do know wins do take into factor. Don't get me wrong. Lamar has had a wonderful year. Burrow should be in consideration. He's had a fantastic year, even though his team didn't make the playoffs. So that's probably going to hurt his chances. And Saquon, if he had played the last week, he could be in contention. But, of course, this is a quarterback award, which it shouldn't be. So Bills end up at 9. Number 8, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Twisted my tongue there for a second. They end up at number 8 on this list. They were the number 1 seed out of the Western Conference. Yes, they got bounced by the Mavs, and they didn't make it to the NBA Finals. But and they're still doing wonderful. Like, they are the 1 seed in the West again. They've continued it. I know some injuries definitely played into their season, why it ended early in the 2024 playoffs. I do have hope. They are tied with the Celtics for the best record in 2024 at 62-21. So they end up at 8. They didn't win, so they didn't get any higher, but they are on the verge of maybe an NBA Finals championship. We'll see. Number 7, the Lions. They were 1 win away from going to the Super Bowl, and they have come out and destroyed kneecaps and they're 15-2. They're the number 1 seed. They're probably going to get the Vikings after this weekend, and are just probably a couple wins from going to Super Bowl. If not, it will be probably the Eagles out of the NFC side. So that's just my opinion. But they have come out. They have completely changed the organization from going 0-16 to now 15-2. They have changed, but they're not there yet at winning, so they fall at 7. At number 8, the Oilers. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals. They fought back, get it to 7 games. Unfortunately, they did lose, but there's still hope. I know they're doing very well in continuing for the 2024-25 season. So they end up at number 6 as runner-ups in the Cup Finals. Number 5, the New York Yankees went back to the World Series for the first time since 2009. It had been a long time coming. And I know people are going to say they had an easy path. Nothing is easy when it comes to the MLB playoffs. We won our division. We took care of business. I say we because I'm a Yankee fan. But they took care of business. They won their division. Got the first round bye. The Royals, a young team coming up, took care of the Orioles. The Orioles have been awful in the playoffs past couple years. So they got the Royals. They took care of business. Like, it was right in front of them. They were dominant against the AL Central all year, and they continued straight into the World Series. They beat Cleveland in 5. It was right there in front of them. There was no Houston this time, which has been the problem. Now, of course, people say, oh, if they beat Houston, they would have won. Some defensive errors, I definitely think. There's a lot of things that could have gone right for them to win in 2024. But they end up at 5 for finishing second place. But they do end up going back to the World Series. And hopefully, with all the moves they've done, bring them back next year. So now into the top 4. All 4 of these teams won their respective leagues. Now, who gets how the order goes, we will find out. At number 4 is the Florida Panthers. They almost don't make this list. If they blow it, if they blew that 3-0 lead, and after going back-to-back, because they lost, they just ran out of steam against the Knights the year before. If they lost back-to-back, I would have not put them even anywhere near the top 10. They would have looped back-to-back. I think they were 1 seeds. Losing in the NBA, or not NBA, Stanley Cup Finals would have put them off this list. But they won, they got over the hump, and they did it. So they end up at number 4. Number 3, the Celtics. They finally get back. I know they've been there for the past couple, close to it, but they finally get it. Unfortunately, I do say they ran into. If they ran into the Knicks, it's probably a whole different story. But the Knicks got injured. They couldn't. They ran out of gas. They got the Pacers, and they just took care of business. Just like the Yankees, they took care of business. And if it was the Thunder, probably a different story. And they took care of the Mavs. Pretty simple. They end up at 3. They probably I probably give them the easiest championship out of the 4. I say Panthers. They had to work for theirs, so I give them 3. Number 2, the LA Dodgers. Still not happy about it. But they had multiple top 10 players. Definitely number 2 guy, Shohei Ohtani, definitely helped. They had Yamamoto. They found a way to spend and defer, and they're continuing to do it. But the Padres gave a run for their money. The Mets made it interesting. It could have been a whole different way for 1 swing, 1 pitch. But they finally get a legit ring for 162. No Mickey Mouse from 2020. They can put that to bed. They get their parade. It's all good. They did well. Now, they don't need to win again for a while. They'll be fine. But they end up at number 2 and they had the best record in baseball throughout the whole year. So they end up at 2. And number 1, Kansas City Chiefs. It wasn't too hard to put them at 1. Back-to-back champs. They went let me find them. They went 16-1, the best record in the NFL. Now, of course, when I say the one loss is to the Bills. So, but they won from January 1st to December 31st. I know they lost to the Broncos, but that doesn't count. That's 2025. So that'll be next year's video. We'll see. But they are the number 1 seed in the AFC, and let's see how far they go. You cannot bet against Mahomes. I will say that Mahomes has won me money the past 2 years. There's one active quarterback that has beaten Mr. Mahomes, and that is Joe Burrow. No other active quarterback in the NFL has beaten Mahomes in the playoffs. The only quarterback that did beat him was Brady, and he's no longer in the league. So they're at back-to-back, looking for a three-peat, which has never been done. And you would think if they get the three-peat, would probably complete the dynasty. How many trips? I think, that'd be... I'm trying to think. They've gone to the AFC Championship game since 18 because they lost to the Patriots. Then they went to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So this would be 8 years straight going to the AFC Championship game if they get that far, which they should, because they depending on how things go, they should. And they went to the Super Bowl last year, the year before. They missed the Bengals year. So you think about since 2020, start 2020, because they won for 19. So they won, lost, missed out back-to-back. So you're talking, if they go to the Super Bowl, 3 and win 3 in a row, 4 in the past 6, there's your dynasty. And they go down in the history books, which you always want to do. Again, I would have loved to see them go 17-0, but go perfect through the season and then just continue the ride into the playoffs. But it is what it is. So they get number 1 to finish out the top 10 in 2024. So recap: Vikings at 10, Bills at 9, Thunder at 8, Lions at 7, Oilers at 6, Yankees at 5, Panthers at 4, Florida Panthers, Celtics at 3, Dodgers at 2, and the Chiefs at number 1. And that is your top 10 and top 10 and bottom 10 teams of 2024. If you guys did enjoy, like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never miss no video. I want to pump out more sports content because that's what I love and that's what I want to do, and I want to share it with you guys. When you're seeing this, if you haven't, go check out my new podcast, Inside the Hive, where it's mainly talks about sports, and we'll break down different teams. We got a lot to unfold probably in the next couple weeks. National championship, Super Bowl playoffs, got a couple other things. So go check that out. Episode 1 should be out now that if you're seeing this. On that, again, I hope you guys did enjoy. And catch you on the next one.